I'm Ellen Livingston. I'm here with Vibrance Magazine. You can view the Vibrance Magazine website at www.vibrancemagazine.com. Vibrance is an online digital magazine which is a cornucopia of amazing information on how to live a healthful, raw food lifestyle. This video and others will be included in the fall edition of Vibrance, so be sure to subscribe and get more of our videos, plus tons of other great information in each 100-page edition. You can view my website at www.livingyoganow.com. I'm going to show you a fun way to make a fairly simple raw lasagna. So I'm going to start with making the sauce so that we'll have that all ready to go, and then when we start making our layers we'll have the sauce ready. So I'm going to start with about 3 medium tomatoes. Just put those in the blender. Let's blend those up a little bit first. That makes the base for our sauce. I'm going to add some red pepper. Just scoop out the seed base in the middle here. And I'll just put the whole pepper in the blender with the tomatoes. Savory sauce. I'm not actually going to add any sweeteners. It's going to be more of a salty sauce with natural sodium from the tomatoes and peppers and other veggies I'm going to put in there. Okay, and let's add some cauliflower. The cauliflower is a really nice alternative to some of the fats that you could put in a sauce like this to help give it a creamy texture, a creamy consistency. So maybe 1/4 of a head of a cauliflower. The exact quantities of each ingredient is not particularly important. You're just sort of making it to taste. And of course it depends on the size of your tomatoes and pepper and cauliflower. Let's start with that much. Okay, see how that made the sauce a little creamier. I think I can put the rest of what I've got here. And then I'm going to add a little bit of sun-dried tomatoes. I suggested in the recipe that you start with about 3 ounces dry of the sun-dried tomatoes, and then you soak them in some water overnight or for at least a couple of hours. It softens them up. So I'm going to use maybe about 1/3 of them to put in the sauce. And what this does for our sauce is it makes it thicker because the sun-dried tomatoes will absorb some of the liquid, allowing me to thicken the sauce without making it a really high-fat sauce, without using nuts to thicken it. So I'll thicken it with the tomatoes and save some for one of my layers in the lasagna. So let's blend that again until it's really smooth. Okay, I want it nice and thick. Pretty good, and then I can flavor it a little bit more with just a touch of fresh basil. So I like to use fresh herbs in some raw recipes. I like to use the herbs that are really mild. So basil would be about as strong as I would get, and I look for one of the more mild basils. So it's not too spicy. So just 3 or 4 leaves. And just blending it enough to kind of pulse it in. Okay, so I can set the sauce aside for later use. And here I have just a rectangular glass pie where I can make the layers. So I look for some as fat as I can find organic zucchinis, and long is nice. This will be about the right length to go that direction in the pan. Just cut the ends off. And then you could use a mandolin, or I have a kai bao, comes from Thailand, and you can just cut off the top skin layer and make some nice thick, wide, I mean not thick, they're actually thin, but they're wide slices of the zucchini. And these are going to lay really nicely right across the length of the pan. You can just overlap them slightly to hold the filling in. It's going to take about one zucchini to make a whole row. And we're going to have 3 entire layers in the pan, so I'm going to need at least 3 zucchinis. Let's see if this does it. Of course, it'll depend on the size of your zucchini. There we go. That looks perfect. And then I'm going to add a layer of just sliced fresh tomato. So I'm going to cut about 1/4 inch slices of tomato, enough to fill the pan. This is where we get to start the fun layering process. Using a ceramic knife, which I was thinking to tell you because it slices tomatoes really nicely. It slices right through that thin skin without pressing down on the tomato too hard. Okay, so there's the tomatoes, and then I am going to add a little bit of overtly fatty food into the lasagna. Instead of cheese in a typical lasagna, I'm going to use some walnuts. And you can put them in whole, or you can chop them up slightly. Really up to you, but just enough to make one thin layer all the way across the lasagna. And if you didn't have walnuts, or you wanted to use avocados instead, you could use avocados or pine nuts, which are rather expensive but work deliciously in a lasagna. So this whole layering technique is flexible what ingredients you use, and flexible what order you make the layers in. So be creative, make it yours. I'm just offering you a guideline or a suggestion. Okay, I'm going to save a few walnuts to put as a topping on the lasagna. And so now I'm ready for the first layer of sauce. Actually, you know what, I just decided I'd rather put one more layer of zucchini first, and then I'll have 2 layers of sauce as I go up, because that's the instructions I gave you in the recipe. So, like I said, you can really make it whatever way you want, but I want to follow what I had suggested to you. Starting with another zucchini. Take off the first skin layer. And you could save that for a soup or a salad. I don't want to put too many layers of sauce because it gets messy if I do that. Okay, let's see if this will go across. You could do this with cucumbers instead of zucchini if you'd like. The zucchini is nice because it holds together just a little bit better, but the cucumber is equally delicious. Okay, one more slice. Okay, and now I'm ready for the sauce. So I'm going to use 2 layers of sauce, I think. So I can use about a half of what I got here if I want to on this first layer. Okay, that's about good, and I'm going to just spread it out a little bit so it covers everything. And now I've got one more sort of rich ingredient to go along with the walnuts, would be the sun-dried tomatoes. So what I've got left here, I'm just going to spread out here. And again, you can put them on whole like this, or you could chop them up if you prefer it. This adds a little bit of extra savory flavor to the zucchini and a little bit of chewy texture. Makes it kind of extra special. Just using up what I have here. Remember that you're not going to eat probably the whole lasagna by yourself. I suggest you share a dish like this because otherwise it would be a lot of walnuts and sun-dried tomatoes for one person. And then I have some fresh baby spinach, about 4 cups of fresh baby spinach. I'm just going to layer that on. I think I packed them in this cup measure pretty tight, so it's actually probably more than 4 cups, and it's probably going to be a little more than I need. So just use as much as you need to cover the whole lasagna like that. Okay. And then I can kind of tamp that down with my third and final layer of zucchini noodles. So lots of pretty colors in here, the reds and the greens together. One more. And I'm just going to press it down a little bit just to hold it together. And now I can put on my final layer of sauce. And I just kind of go back and forth like this to get it on as evenly as I can, knowing that I can spread it out afterwards. Okay. And then it really doesn't even need any spreading out. I think it looks really nice just like that. Just clean up my space a little bit here. And now I have a blank canvas for decorating, so I could think about what to add. I've got lots of choices. I think I'm going to choose a little bit of sliced tomato. And this time I'm going to slice it really thin for decoration. Lay a little row across the front like that. And then I'm wanting some green, so I'm going to have some little bit of chopped basil. Also add a little more pizzazz. It's up to you. If you love basil, then feel free to put on more. Just going to dice it up a little bit and sprinkle it on to add some color across the top of the lasagna. Such a nice combination, the savory zucchini, tomato, basil. Okay. And then a final touch, I saved some walnuts and I'm going to chop them up a little bit this time. You can put them on hold if you like. We've got crunchy, chewy, juicy, all in one dish. Really satisfying. I'm just going to make a nice big row across the top here. But you could do whatever your creative genius tells you to do. So when you go to serve this lasagna, I suggest you use a really good quality knife, maybe a nice sharp ceramic knife so that you can slice right through, all the way through, and get a big spatula, and you ought to be able to serve, 4 to 8 people here with this one pie. So let's see if I can hold it up so you can see it a little bit better, and voila, we have a gorgeous, nutritious, 100% raw, healthy, raw lasagna.